Good evening. After a 3-year investigation into the devastating Hunter Valley bus crash, a finding today that lives were lost because of a long list of the worst possible safety failures.
10 wedding guests were killed and 25 injured in the coach rollover at Greta, with investigators making dozens of recommendations to stop a repeat of the tragedy.
Colourful tributes marking a dark day. This roadside garden honouring the victims of the Hunter Valley bus crash eases the pain of that devastating night just a little.
This garden, myself and my wife and one of the other dads and husbands, we decided to build this garden. It certainly gives me some help with the grief along the way.
3 years on, Matthew Mullen still grieves the loss of his daughter Rebecca like it was yesterday. A young doctor with the world at her feet, one of 10 passengers killed in the Greta rollover that left 25 others injured. In June 2023, in a dark fog, a coach flipped on a Hunter Valley roundabout. On board, what had been happy wedding guests.
10 people did not come home after that night.
The Office of Transport Safety Investigations releasing a video report.
A series of systemic failures aligned in the worst possible way.
A reconstruction animation of the crash, chilling.
Stability reduced and the coach left the intended path, rolled onto its left side and impacted the roadway before sliding into the roadside barrier.
Various angles forensically dissecting the disaster.
We utilised data from the road, witness marks and other information.
The report finding not all passengers were wearing fitted seatbelts and there were no pre-safety instructions as required. Broken windows showing how 17 victims had been thrown from the coach.
The 10 fatalities were associated with ejection or partial ejection.
Driver Brett Button had a shocking record. 27 passenger complaints in 6 years, dangerous driving, crashing, even teaching children how to swear. He was likely opioid dependent and had a history of medication misuse, but his pain management
was not disclosed to Transport for New South Wales by the driver, the general practitioner or a previous employer.
There are 41 recommendations, including increased seatbelt management, better driving medication management, a centralised driver performance system and a review of bus rollover protection. Brett Button was convicted of dangerous driving occasioning death and is serving 32 years in jail. The report aims at ensuring the mistakes he made and the systemic failures around him never happen again.
A lot of work's been done, so hopefully people don't have to walk in our shoes.
Clementine Cuneo, 7 News.
If there was ever a champion of Australian music, it was rock journalist Glenn A. Baker. His knowledge of the industry and its artists unmatched.
But after a life dedicated to music, sad news today, the 74-year-old has died. Family and friends far and wide singing his praises.
He was the face.
Nobody had ever seen a band like them.
The voice.
AC/DC, they just ripped.
The guru and the guide.
Oh, they're going to survive the test of time.
Through decades of music.
I think there was a certain irreverence about them.
Absolute pioneers of rock and roll in Australia.
Charting it all.
I am really Glenn A. Baker and there's nothing I can do about it.
Journalist, broadcaster, historian. Devoted.
And while the rest of us put a shirt on and go to the office, he followed his passion. Glenn was into music from a very early age and just followed it.
A passion cemented by the Beatles.
That they wiped clean and wrote again the face of popular music. They gave it a new face and a new dimension and a new possibility.
Bob Dylan, his musical hero.
Dylan cut through to me because of his writing, his poetry.
Baker's children along for the ride.
One of my earliest memories was at 4 years old, he drove me into the city to see a band called Kiss. And I don't think I even wanted to be there. I think it was a scary experience for me. But a little while later, he dragged me off to another concert of a new up-and-coming band that he said we're definitely going to go places called Men at Work.
Before online information at everyone's fingertips, he was the human search engine.
Eric Clapton may not want the world to know that he was actually born Eric Patrick Clapp.
Rock and roll quizmaster of the universe, Glenn A. Baker.
Winning the BBC's Rock Brain of the Universe 3 times.
This Australian music, Anne, over the past, well, I suppose 10 years, has really put its best foot forward.
And that depth of knowledge, that sense of history, was remarkable because he found it all so exciting and so beautiful.
The voice goes somewhere in the back of your brain.
Not just a head for music, but the distinctive headwear to go with it.
Nice hat.
Well, thank you indeed.
Have you grown more hair since I last saw you? That's terrific,
It's
isn't
a fungal growth.
What do they call that?
A hat.
Understanding the connection we have with music.
And rock and roll plays a very much more important part of their life.
Back in the 60s, perhaps, we wanted it to lead us, show us the way.
From the 1970s, a champion of Australian music as it took on the world.
It always helps to have someone as a champion. He loved music and he loved the people that made the music.
He would come to our shows quite a lot, bring his family. It's great to have him in our corner.
He lived it, breathed it and bought it with a renowned record collection, 80,000 vinyl albums, 30,000 CDs. Baker wrote 14 books, edited Billboard magazine for 20 years, helped create Radio Double J that became Triple J.
That he was someone who chose a path and ferociously went after it.
Living his passion, sharing it with all of us, helping turn music listeners into music lovers.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Paul Carrack, 7 News.
A fire has left quite the mess at a recycling factory in Greenacre today. Dozens of firefighters were needed to extinguish the blaze, which destroyed one of the heavy machinery vehicles around 9 a.m. No one was hurt.
One of our most baffling cold cases, the disappearance of Sydney sex worker Revelle Balmain 32 years ago, has today taken a dramatic turn. The coroner finding her employers were either behind her disappearance or know who was, but it might not lead to charges.
She had a lifetime ahead of her. Instead, Revelle Balmain became one of Sydney's most enduring mysteries. The 22-year-old dancer and sex worker disappeared in November 1994. Her shoes and diary found at Kingsford in the eastern suburbs. For years, suspicion centred on the last client to see her alive, Gavin Samer. But today, a coroner turned the spotlight on Jane King and Zoran Stanojevic, who employed Balmain at their Select Companions escort agency, saying the pair repeatedly lied to police and the courts. Neither Miss King nor Mr. Stanojevic were witnesses of truth. Their lies permit a conclusion that they either knew who was responsible for Miss Balmain's disappearance or were themselves somehow involved. Despite the damning words, the coroner found there's not enough evidence to lay charges.
Would you mind if I put this poster up?
Balmain's parents have since died, but never lost hope of closing the case. Her half-sister, Sue Ellen, watched today's findings online.
Well, it doesn't give them the total answers because Revelle's body end is still missing, but it goes a long way to satisfying some of the questions that they've had since the first inquest in 1994.
The coroner also raised questions about a friend of Stanojevic's, Bojan Privilovic, who had a booking with the escort the night she disappeared and who left the country 2 days later, in a case that's far from over. It's now up to the New South Wales Police Unsolved Homicide Unit to assess whether today's findings justify taking the investigation any further.
If any other persons are out there that do have information, can they please contact police?
Sam Payne, 7 News.
Alan Jones has lost a legal fight days out from his trial getting underway in Sydney.
Chief reporter Chris Reason joins us live now at the desk. Chris, his lawyers wanted an effective media blackout.
Yeah, Michael, Angela, this was just an extraordinary move to allow the media to sit inside the courtroom but not report most of what was actually happening inside. Now, the case, as we know, is due to start on Monday. Alan Jones facing a total of 22 charges of indecent assault, kissing, touching, relating to 6 male complainants. Now, the 85-year-old strenuously denies the allegations. Today, his legal team argued that journalists should not be allowed to report on the testimony of those 6 men making the allegations against him. The media engaged lawyers, arguing that the law was clearly meant to allow the free reporting of the case.